Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Ron Line Report. Guest today I've been waiting to talk to on the show for a while. I should have asked him a long time ago. The one and only legendary Lee Priest, all the way from Sydney, Australia. How are you, Lee?
Good, thank you, Ron. Good. I like that. Representing.
Yeah, I told you.
I know. You're probably thinking, oh, am I allowed to talk to Lee or will I get in trouble?
No, I mean, it's my channel. I don't have any sponsors or anything, so I don't have anyone to really upset. I don't really do much contest coverage, but we'll get into stuff that's probably somewhat controversial in some areas, but because we're both, I'm 55. What are you, 51 now?
52, 53. July coming when July comes around.
Yeah. So we both been around. We both were around bodybuilding, especially in the heyday, the 90s. To me, that was our heyday anyway, our age group. So obviously, 30 years ago versus today, a lot of things have changed. So that's what I want to get into with you today. Is bodybuilding better or worse today than 30 years ago? So we'll compare like 1994, which is, I think you were living out in Los Angeles in 94, right?
Yeah, not from 93 to, was it 2005? I was in LA, then I went to Texas for 4 years, and then Scottsdale, Arizona after that for almost 4 years. That's the old World Gym there that moved to the old Sizzler building.
Yeah, it was you did most of your videos there. Did you always request that they film there?
No, because for the first few years I was at Golds and that, but then when I went down to Worlds, I just fit in there because Joe was almost like my adopted grandfather, and I got on good with Eddie Giuliani, and that guy in the background, the blue top, that's Ira. That's the guy that moved from back east with Lou Ferrigno. That was Lou Ferrigno's training partner, and I trained with him and Lou for a bit, and he got me ready. Or, not ready, but he trained me and pushed me for the 97 Ironman and the Olympia and that. Oh, look, there's Joe. And then when Joe passed, I got his dogs. And then pretty much when Joe passed, things weren't the same. And that's pretty much when I moved to Texas.
Yeah, I don't think the gym was even around more than a couple of years after Joe passed.
No, sadly it wasn't. I remember that's the one there in Abbott Kinney, because I always remember on leg days, I used to hate going up those stairs there to go up the top.
Yeah, for people that never had the privilege, it was the only gym I ever went to where there was no music allowed. They didn't play music, and if you dropped the weights and made a ruckus, Joe would come out. He would kick you out of the gym.
Oh yeah, tourists would come and drop the weights. I'd be in the office, and Joe would be in his wheelchair or sometimes on the crutches, but he'd go out, get the fuck out. He'd throw their money back at him and kick it. That's the thing, too, when people scream and train, and he didn't like that either, because he'd point to me, go, see him over there? I've seen him squat 6 plates, and I wouldn't even know he's in the gym. What are you screaming for? Get out.
Oh, man. I have only one good joke. It was the first time I ever met Joe Gold. It was summer of 1988. I just went in there I was too scared to train there because I thought all these guys are all too big. But I wanted a tank top. So I went in and I saw the selection. I go, can I get that gray one with the pink lettering? It was like $10. He says, what size? It was Joe. I said, small. He goes, small's for midgets. Get a medium. I'm like, okay, I'll take a medium, please. So.
He was funny. He'd always call me fat boy because I'd bulk up in the office. Even in contest shape, hey, fat boy, what are you doing? And I actually felt privileged because when I was over at World, and I was getting ready for an Ironman or something, and Eddie Giuliani, and they're like, oh, Joe must like you. I said, why? He goes, he's coming to watch you. He hasn't been to a contest since Arnold competed. So,
wow. I mean, the fact that he even acknowledged you and had like a nickname for you tells you he liked you. I know he liked you. I remember.
I used to go with him to Costco and help him. And if we went traveling on a plane, sometimes it used to be like that convention up San Francisco and that Ursa and that. So he would fly up, so I'd go on the plane to help him while Mike Uritz and Eddie would drive up and stuff. So I used to be there with Joe pretty much every day and have dinner with him and that sort of thing. So yeah, like I said, it's almost like your grandfather. We just sit in the office and tell stories. And I still laughed this one day, this guy come in, because, Joe made his own equipment and stuff. So I was out on the back balcony working, and I'm training, and he opens the window, fat boy, come here. I'm like, oh, what now? So I go into the office, he goes, hop on this. What do you think of it? It was just like a handle like this and a bar going down to like a step where you could step on and do calves. So you just pretty much stand on it with your body weight and hold on and do your calves. Oh. And there was a guy there, and he's like, what do you think of that? Would you use that? I said, oh, it's okay, but I don't know if I'd use it. Then Joe turns to the guy and goes, take your fucking piece of shit and get the fuck out. I looked at the guy and I'm like, sorry. Like,
Yeah. I mean, if people don't know, he was really good at making equipment. If you
oh,
the movie Pumping Iron, everyone's seen it, but I don't think people realize he made all the equipment in that gym, didn't he?
yeah, and it was still working to the day he died. I mean, that stuff that was on the outdoor balcony. So it's out in the elements, the rain, the salt air from the beach. It was the smoothest equipment. And I'd have to say, Joe, like, some new equipment could be good. Like you start off, it's hard, then it gets easy. Or, never had that same tension through the whole range of motion. Every piece that Joe made was constant tension. Like it didn't go easier or harder or stuff like that. So he knew all the right points. And then, because I was there so much, he only had 140s. And I'm like, oh, I need to go heavier. So he made 150s up to 200-pound dumbbells for me, and he made them that well. Like I'd go over to his warehouse, he made it so it's the perfect size for the hand. But yet, you get to some dumbbells, you sit them on your lap and they're sitting up here, they're so big. When you go to press them, you only get to here because they touch. So he made these 200-pound dumbbells. They're probably a little bit rounder, but they're only about this big on each end, so you could sit them there. They only look like 120s or something, but it was like perfect, though. So it was great for pressing and stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some topics. When you turned pro, I remember it was a whole big deal because you had won. So in 1993, it was 93, you came to the U.S. for the first time.
Yeah.
And you were going to compete in the Niagara Falls amateur show. They had a pro-am, an NPC, and a pro show. And did Lou fly you over there, my boss, and then abandon you? Is that what happened?
Well, he said he was going to pay for my ticket and that, but it didn't come through. So my friend brought me my ticket to come over, and he pretty much just left me in the lurch. So I was at Gold's Gym, and I met up. I think Jim Mannion was there at the time, and I think I was doing a photo shoot with Irvin Gelb, and Irvin Gelb introduced me to Ed Connors, who took some photos to send to Weeder. But Jim was there, and I think Irvin might have introduced me to him, and he's like, "What are you over here doing?" I said, "I'm just here to do the Niagara Falls amateur." He's like, "Oh," so what have you done in that before? I told him all the shows, been competing since 13, and I won the Mr. Australia from 17, 18, and 19, but they said I was too young to turn pro, and Paul Graham wouldn't give me my pro card. He's like, "Well, why not? You've won the national title. You should have your pro card." So I think he then spoke to Wayne, and then they contacted Paul Graham, and they gave me my pro card. So I ended up doing the pro Niagara Falls. And like I said, I only planned on coming for 2 weeks, and then because Ed sent the photos to Weeder, I got a meeting with Weeder, got a contract. So my 2 weeks turned into almost 20 years.
So people, I think they missed what you said there. You won not the teenage Australia. You won the whole national title at age 17, 18, and 19.
Yeah, and then after that too, when I went to the World Championships for IFBB, I was still a lightweight, so I had to be drug-free. After the third time, I'm like, fuck this. So when people say, when you do your first course, I'm like, when I was 19, like towards the end of my 19, because I said, there's some nice pictures you see me standing in red posing trunks by a dirt road. That's like the natural 19. Then when you see me, I think there's some studio shots towards the end of the year, you can see the 20 pounds difference on my frame. I did DECA for 8 weeks, 200 milligrams a week, and put on 20 pounds.
That was your cycle, right? Just 200 milligrams of DECA a week for 8 weeks?
The first cycle was, Then after that, I always kept my dosages low. And every seminar I did, I'd tell people, look, if I took testosterone, the most I ever did was 400. Remember Trevor from Nuclear Nutrition, Trevor Smith?
Oh, yeah.
Massive guy. He's like, I used to train with him a couple of times. He's like, Lee, do you think you could get bigger if you took more? I'm like, I never thought about it. So for a couple of weeks, I went to 800, and like hand on my heart, I felt like shit. I just felt crap inside. Didn't feel any better. Went back to 400 and great. And if I use SUS 250, the most I take would be 2 mils. So if it's a true 250, then that's 500. But Dianabol, I'd take anywhere between only 20, 30 milligrams a day if I was taking that. So the way these young kids now, because I'd go do seminars in England, and we get talking about gear, and I say, Lee, what'd you take this? And I said, 400 of test. And they're like, oh, bullshit. I'm like, why? What do you take? They're like, I'm on 1 gram, some are on 2 grams. So I can just see their mind turning like, I'm taking 2 grams and I look like this. He looks like that. So he's got to be taking more. It's that mentality. It's like, I used to talk when I trained with Tom Platz for a year, and he'd tell me about what the guys were taking. And that's the thing. Even when Dorian came out of that cycle, a couple of years ago, it was like, Dorian's lying. But if you really speak to some of these pros, they never used a lot. Yes, you got the genetics, you got the mindset, you got the consistency. There's so much that comes into it. To me, drugs were the last thing. I never had that thing in my mind where I'll train with guys and they're like, I can't go heavy. I'm like, why not? I'm not on anything. I'm like, if you think that way, you're going to be doomed to begin with. It's like, I trained just as heavy when I wasn't on it than when I was on it. So some of my best lifts was when I was bulked up at 285 and not on anything. So just that extra body weight and all the cushioning, I was a lot stronger. So yeah, I think young kids today rely too much on it and the amounts, which sadly, I know there's a few guys now who took a lot in the old days who are now realizing, hey, I'm only doing this and I feel just as good. They've halved it. And that's what I tell people too. If you don't believe me and you're taking a gram medicine, then I said, why don't you just halve it? You got nothing to lose. Just try it for once. Come off it for about a month or two, clean out, go on a cycle, but use half of what you used before. I guarantee you'll make the same gains, the same everything. But I said, what do you got to lose? Just try it once. If it doesn't work, go back to your stupid large amounts. So it's just crazy now. And even things like tren, I'm amazed at so many young kids. How many times do you see tren? I used tren 4 times. The last time I used it was getting ready for that. I think it was the Night of Champions, or could have been the San Fran in 2002. I was with Kathy and I was in the bathroom and I was putting it in. You know, you get the trend cough. I mean, this was beyond the cough. I mean, as I was putting it in, my chest felt like someone just went whack into my chest and I got that tight. I couldn't breathe. I'm thinking, fucking the pain. I'm thinking, fuck, this is how it's going to end. I'm fucking having a heart attack, dying. And from that day, I never took it again. And that's the thing when I hear these young kids now, like, oh, when I take tren, I can't sleep. I'm this, I'm that, I'm angry. I'm thinking, and it does this. I'm thinking, why would you put something in your body that makes you feel that bad? Like I said, after that last time I took it, I'm thinking, I'm never using this shit again. I don't care if it does get you in shape or not in shape. I said, I'm not going to take something that affects my body that bad. And that's why I get now, and these young kids are always talking about, oh, you're on tren, this tren. It's like, you could use Winstrol, eat clean, and do cardio. You're going to get the same results. So,
yeah, I mean, you're a car guy, so this is the analogy. I talk to a lot of young kids that want to go on tren. Sometimes as young as 16, 17, I say, that's like somebody who just learned to drive last week and you're putting them behind the wheel, behind the steering wheel of a Testarossa or a Bugatti or something like that. You know, it's so uncalled for.
It's like too, it's like you got to have the genetics and everything's got to be in place, because it's like everybody thinks that they just take steroids, they're going to become this big freaky thing and build muscle. You've been in the gym long enough. How many people do you know that take steroids and you look at them, you're like, do you even go to the gym? It's like nothing happens, because as I've always said to, like another car analogy, I said, it's like having say you had just a little Toyota Corolla and then you have the top fuel dragster. You put the nitro fuel in the top fuel dragster, it goes like a bat out of hell. Now you can put that same fuel in the Toyota Camry or whatever. It's not going to go like the top fuel dragster because it's built for that. It's designed for that. You know, that's how bodies are sometimes. Some bodies just respond with the training and the genetics. But I've always said, even before you touch a drug, because, you know, you always get people say, I want to be pro, I want to do this. It's like, how about you just train? If it's meant to be, it's going to be, because we've all seen it. You can have 4 guys that go to the gym, train the same, eat the same. One of them could just have that good genetics and he just starts growing. People are like, fuck, are you on gear? Because he just develops. So I've always said, you don't need to try and kill yourself to get there. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It'll happen naturally before you even touch the gear.
Yeah, I mean, I always say people are in denial about genetics being responsible primarily for how a bodybuilder is going to look. You know, you looked bigger, more muscular by the age of 15, 16 natural than most guys could be after 20 years of blasting all the gear in the world and be like 35, 40 years old. They wouldn't, because they didn't have those genetics. Yeah. But people don't want to hear that because you can't change your genetics.
And that's the thing. Everyone thinks there's a secret. I remember when I did go to America and come home, people go, so what are they doing over there? What's the secret? What drugs? What training? I'm like, exactly the fucking same as here. There is no secret, people. So stop thinking that that's what I hate too, when pros would say this is what we've used and we get called liars, and they're like, they just don't want to tell us. They just like, why wouldn't we? It's like, how many interviews have you done with me for MD back in the day where I'll talk about everything, my sex life and this and that. And it's like, I'm going to admit to all that, but I'm going to lie about my drug cycle. Come on. It's like,
I always say, if somebody's lying, you have to ask, what do they have to gain? What does Lee Priest have to gain by saying he used these low amounts? Is he trying to make himself look like, more, that he worked harder, that he had better genetics, and more accomplished? Because you don't seem to give a shit about any of that anyway. So,
no. And the thing is too, the reason why I was honest about it, because I want people to think that, okay, if you are going to do it, you don't need these stupid large amounts. Just use the small amounts. So I was doing it as in a way to say, listen, guys, look, I can't stop you from taking it, but if you are going to use it, don't abuse it and use the smaller amounts. So you know, if I was taking, you know me, I've always been too honest, my mum says, but if I was taking 10,000 of this, and I'd say, look, I'm taking 10,000 of this, I was like, I don't give a shit if you know what I'm doing. So, you know, but I never had to say that. Like I said, the most I used was the 800 that time of test and felt like crap. So, yeah, people, there is no secret. There is nothing's going to beat hard work. And that's why I always like Mike O'Hearn, because people keep asking me, do you think he's natural? Look, I've never seen him use gear. He says he is. And the thing is, too, like from those photos when I'm 19 in the beginning of the year to the end of the year, you can see the big difference. And if you look at Mike from his teenage years, powerlifting, the bodybuilding to now, you've never seen that where Mike's been here and all of a sudden, boom, you know, if someone's been natural for 15 years or more and they get on gear, you can see the big dramatic change. And he's been consistent the whole time. You got to remember, he's been in the gym 40 odd years, busting his ass consistently. I don't think I ever saw a day he wasn't at the gym. So these people that go, oh, he's not. And the thing is, too, he's not massive. He's got nice physique. He's got nice muscle for his height. But yeah, you always look bigger on videos and stuff like that. So these people go, he's not natural. Whether he's on TRT now because he's in his 50s, who knows? But back then, you could just tell he wasn't on it. Some people are just, you know, you get this mentality sometimes where people think, if I can't do it, no one can. If I can't do it naturally, if I can't do this, you can't do it. You must be getting assistance. So it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's plenty of guys out there, thousands, hundreds of thousands of guys who are blasting very, very large doses now. And none of them look like what we're looking at on the screen right now. They don't look like you. So if drugs were the answer, why wouldn't we have thousands and thousands of guys looking like Lee Priest or Ronnie Coleman or Kai Green or Phil Heath?
Yeah, I say that all the time. If drugs were the answer, everyone would be a freak, because the amount of people that take steroids and still look like crap. And that's when, even when it came to roid rage, I said, if roid rage was a thing, to me, it's like, I never got it. I'd sometimes get pissed off when I'm dieting because I want to eat McDonald's and I couldn't eat it, so I'd get angry, but it was never the steroids. But I've always said the whole roid rage thing, it's like alcohol. You get people to drink alcohol. They're happy drunks. They tell jokes. They laugh. Or you get people to drink and they're like, fuck, I want to fight people. They just get into fights all the time. And I think steroids are the same way. They just amplify. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole, because I've said, if steroids cause roid rage, I said, Gold's Gym, any big gym, it'd be like a UFC fight every fucking night. The amount of people that are on gear, they'll be like, you finish that bench, get the fuck off it. Fucking cunt. Like, you know, it's just, everyone will be bashing the shit out of each other. So, and the thing is too, it's like, if you're a guy of muscles and you get angry, oh, roid rage. It's like, you could take me at my peak when I was all muscular. If someone cut me off and I get in the car and said, you fucking asshole, roid rage. If a guy 120 pounds get out the car and goes fucking asshole, he's just a pissed off guy. So
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, I still think even for your era, you were probably one of the more moderate users. You probably talked to guys in the 90s, and you don't have to name any names, but were some of them on way more? Do you think that they were on the same level of dosages that we're seeing today?
Well, that's the funny thing. Like I did that podcast with Dennis and Paul on that last week, and I was talking to Paul, and the only one I could say who I knew what was taking was Paul, because he lived with me for 8 months. And this is the thing, I heard all the rumors about Paul Dillette because he's so freaky and that, and I saw what he was taking. He was like me, would light up our Winstrol, put it on the coffee table in the fruit bowl, and sometimes it'd be there for 2 days. I'd be like, have you had your shot? He's like, no, son. Have you had yours? I'm like, no, I might take it tomorrow. And the growth hormone, I think the most I ever seen him take was 6 IUs. I heard he takes 20 of this. The most I ever saw him take was 12 one day, because it was near the end of the dieting, and he had 12. I might as well not waste it. I'll take it. So I saw what he took, but in all the years I like on the European tours, be it in a firehouse with Gary Stride and Flex, Chris, or whoever, we never once discussed steroids. I never once asked them, what are you taking? Or after the 97 Ironman, Flex asked me for the 97 Ironman, all I used was clenbuterol, stanozol, and T3. That was it. And Flex is like, what? He goes, fuck, you'd die if you knew what I took. But I didn't ask him. He just said, you'd die if you knew what I took. So, but to me, it was like, I don't care what someone's taking. That's why when I see these things today, what's he taking? I said, who cares? It's like, whatever he took, you could take the same. You're not going to look like him. So what does it matter? And then if they do tell you, you don't believe them. So I don't get what this fascination is on, what did you take? How much did you take? Because, like I said, they're not going to believe you, or even knowing, what's knowing going to do? Who cares? It's like, how many other pro sports in America, whether it be football or whatever, you know, the NFL and that, are all using steroids, but it's never talked about. That's why, yes, it's good. But to me, when I used to get the magazines, you might have had back in the day one little steroid article. It was all about the training, the eating. There might have been a steroid one here and there, but then it became like, why do we talk about it so much in this sport when we know it's there? Okay, but talking about it's not gonna, make it any better. Oh, that was my comeback after 7 years off at 42.
Yeah, 2013 NABA Universe win. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lee, I call that category of media content gear porn, because there are all these podcasts that all they do is bring guys on who talk about their dosage, and they never bring on people that are moderate users. They seek out the people who are going to talk about using 3 grams of test and 2 grams of tren and 20 IUs of growth a day and 5 Anadrol 50s a day. And it's and people, these kids watching it, they're coming in their pants. They're so excited to hear about it.
I know. It's like, what happened to the days where, okay, even if you're going to be a bodybuilder, you at least do 5 to 7 years maybe of no gear just to build a foundation before you even took it. But now there's people taking gear before they get their gym membership. I remember this would have been back in the 90s. Sports Illustrated come out. I wish they had kept it. And they did steroids in sport, and they had a list of, I think bodybuilding was like number 8 on the list. Number 1 was soccer players. And now if you watch soccer, whoever thinks soccer players are on gear, but they'll use it for recovery and stuff like that. But you'd never suspect it, would you? I think number 4 was college kids that just wanted to look good, but bodybuilding was number 8 on the list. And it's like, but because it's so visual, people see us and they go, steroids. Yeah. It's like, you can just be a normal guy in shape with a good physique naturally, and if you're lean and muscular, steroids. It's like,
well, I mean, it's fed into the whole. I think so many young kids are on steroids now because they think you have to take steroids to build any amount of muscle. Yeah. Like, you can't gain 1 ounce of muscle lifting weights, lifting hard and eating. You can't. It's impossible. You need drugs.
Well, I've always told that story. This guy I trained with for a while, he was like in his early 20s, but he'd show up every now and then, say like 3 times max a week. And when he just ate maybe a big Subway sandwich and then a protein drink. So his eating was probably very minimal. And he kept bugging me. I want to get on gear. I said, why? I said, just keep training. You'll do good. Oh, no, I won't. I said, he just kept nagging me. So one day I went home and got my Danabol bottle, put tablets in it. Said, here you go. Now take this. But also, while you're taking this, here's a diet. I want you to eat these 5 meals a day. And I want you to train 5 times a week with me. So he did that. After a month, he put on 15 pounds. His strength went up. He's like, oh, I'm almost out of those tabs. Can I get more? I said, how many you got left? He's like, 10. I said, grab a couple out now. He gets them. I said, chew them. He goes, oh, fuck. He goes, they're sweet. I said, that's fucking sugar pills. He's like, you fucking asshole. I said, listen, though. I said, it was all in your head. All I did was give you 5 meals a day that you stuck to, and you stuck to regular training, and that's what made the fucking difference. Well, hey, balloons, where'd that come from?
What the fuck? You did that, right? I'm not doing that.
Fucking clown comes out behind me, fucking Pennywise.
The great Pennywise. So I want to go back to this just for a second. So it was very hard for you to turn pro. 3 national wins, and they still wouldn't give you a pro card.
Yeah. The first time they said I was too young, and then the second time you're too young.
So it was hard. I mean, like, the UK is a good example because for many, many years, only one person every year from the UK turned pro. You had to win the British Championships overall, not just class winners. So today it's so different. There are so many ways to turn pro. Amateur Olympia, this, that, master shows. We have thousands and thousands of pros now. Do you think it's better that it's easier to turn pro now, or do you think it was better when it was very, very difficult and there weren't many pros?
I think it was a lot easier now than what it was back then, because you look at some of the lineups back then at the USA's when you'd have Chris and Flex and Edgar Fletcher and all these guys. Any one of them could have turned pro and been a good pro, but only one of them was getting the pro card. And then to me, it was like back then too, if you walked into a gym, whether it be Gold's or whatever, and you saw a guy, you're like, he's fucking pro for sure. You knew it. Now you got people coming up there. I'm professional. I'm like, what, a darts or fucking lawnmowers? I'm like, it's like there's so many now who are like, it's like, what do you get the pro card for? Just to put it in your IFBB pro in your fucking Facebook or Instagram title? Because now, like I said, I can see why promoters do it for the money side and that sort of thing. But really, I think it's watered it down because there's some guys up there who shouldn't be there. And like I get into this argument with the 212. To me, I'd rather see a height 5'6" and under and over, like, an Arnold and Franco. And that way, if you're 5'6", you could still be over 212 or whatever. It's just then have the overall at the end, put the tall guy with the shorter guy, because to me, it's like you're dumbing it down. And some people go, well, if there's no 212, people would quit. I'm like, if you love the sport, you're not going to quit. if you know you got to compete in the open, you're going to train a lot fucking harder. And look at now, Hardy was a 212, Derek was a 212, Bonac was a 212. So, you know, even Sean Clarita's won an open class. So it can be done. So I just don't, it's like, okay, so you can't make 212. Are we going to make a 185 for the other pros who can't get the two? Like, when do we keep dumbing it down? Like, if you went to athletics, to the Olympics, you know, what's Hussein run, a 9-something second thing? I can't do that. But that's okay. Next Olympics, we're going to make a 14-second class for you fucking retards that can't make the 9-second class. It's like, why are we dumbing it down for these people? Because if you got the genetics, you're going to get there. It maybe take a year or more, but there's nothing better than competing in the open, being a shorter guy, beat the big guys, because trust me, they get upset when you beat them. Ronnie still never got over it, as we can see in all his interviews. So.
It brings you up all the time. But your name comes up all the time. Sean Ray and Lee Priest, two names that come up all the time. If there had been a 212 division back then, these guys would have won the 212 Olympia. They would have won tons and tons of 212 shows. But you're saying you wouldn't have wanted that because it would have been.
Now, I might have done it once because I find things like wherever it be when I got to the racing and that or anything, I like a challenge. And, you know, to me, it's like if I kept winning, I don't know. It's always, like I said, you're always more hungry when you're going for the title. Having it, I'd be like, okay, now I would have been like maybe won it once or twice and go, okay, I'm going to go to the open. That's why I was so disappointed Flex didn't do that, because I think Flex would have won an open.
Oh, yeah.
You know, simply because, like, you know, Derek's won one and that. And Flex, to me, his mass and his shape, I think, is better than them. And that's why I was disappointed when he didn't make that one. So I think he would have had it. I think he would have been the first to do the 212 and win an open, not Derek. So I just don't see it. Like I just said, I just wish they'd get rid of it now. Or if you want to have it, go to the height classes. That way these guys don't have to drag themselves down to under 212. So, yeah, I don't know, but people get mad when I say that, because some of the guys you see, some of these pro shows, nothing against them, but you haven't got a pro physique. Yes, you train hard and look good, but to me, you still just look like a good amateur. To me, a pro should be someone that, blows you out. Almost the pros, like in anything, it's something that you can almost never get to. It's like, you know, when you see Ronnie or Dorian or Phil Heath, you know you're never going to get there, but you know they're pro. It's like when you see the good ones like Michael Jordan or Kobe and them, you might be a good basketball player, but, you know, they got the genetics, they got the 1%. And in bodybuilding, these guys have the 1%. So I've always said there's guys who might compete who are always going to be a good regional level, maybe not good at state. You're going to get the ones who are good at state, but not good at nationals. You get guys who are good at nationals, but will never get a pro card. And you get some who'll get a pro card, but they're not going to be a good pro. So you might have been better off staying a top amateur. So yeah, you just got to be like a realist with yourself and know where you fit in and know where you think. Because like I said, so many guys, these guys that get their pro card, how many of them, I'd like to know how many pro cards are out there, and then how many of them actually compete in the pro shows once they get it. It's like,
the thing, when it was very difficult to turn pro, like when Flex Wheeler turned pro in 1992, he immediately started winning shows. You were good. If you could turn pro in the United States back then, you were good enough to already be probably top 6 at the Olympia, like immediately.
yeah.
Cormier turned pro the next year, same thing, because it took them so long. You know, that when Leveroni turned pro in 91, same thing, but his heavyweight class, he, in that one class, you know, I know you know this already, but Ronnie Coleman was in that class, Paul DeMeo, Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier, Dean Caputo. It was the whole Matt Mendenhall, Edgar Fleet, the whole top 10 was like pro caliber. You don't see that now. I mean, that's
a lot of them too. I don't know why it is too, but back then, even like me being, I was exceptionally young, but the majority of them were in their 20s, late 20s. Now, some guys aren't turning pro to their 30s and stuff. And this is where I say you got to be realist with yourself, because I've seen so many, you probably know them too, where that's all they want to do is be pro. But in doing so, they'll give up family time in life. They won't, like, I won't get that job. If I get that job, that's going to affect my training. They let so much in life go by because they're so focused on being a pro. And then 20 years later, you see them, they're still pumping the gear, they're still training, still don't have that pro card. So there comes a time you got to be like, hey, that might have been your dream, but it's not going to happen. Focus. You could be good at something else you didn't even think about because you've been thinking about this, and it's not going to. We've seen people sadly pass away still trying to achieve that card because they think, I just keep taking gear. They're getting older and older. And, you know, after, you know, your organs inside aren't 20 years old anymore like they were. You know, it's like. So
I was going to bring that up because the Masters, I tried to turn pro in them. I didn't try to turn pro until much later. I was already 40, but I was up there with the guys who were 40 to 50 years old. And I saw people that had been blasting gear for 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
every year, still trying to get that pro card. And, you know, I'm in a way, I'm glad I never turned pro, because then I would have, in my dopey little mind, I would have been like, well, now I need to do all this other gear, and then I could, you know, I would have, you know, what would that have done for me? I probably wouldn't be alive right now. But
yeah, that's what I said. You just got to be realist with yourself. I know we all have dreams and we want to achieve stuff, but then after so many years, 10 years, if you haven't achieved it, then maybe it's like, okay, I can still train. That's what I tell people. Even if you never get the pro card and do it, there's no reason you don't have to go to the gym. You can still go to the gym for your health, look good, feel good, hang out with your mates, whatever. So there's no reason to stop training. But that dream of being a pro, it's like, you know, when people say, I want to be Mr. Olympia. I'm like, oh, do you know how hard that is to be Mr. Olympia? It's like, have you won a local show? No. I'm like, well, that's a nice dream, but how about we start down here and work your way up there? So
yeah, well, you see on a lot of hashtag going pro on every competitor, they all want to be, and I get that. I'm not crushing their dreams, saying, but really everybody can't be a pro. And if everyone's a pro, then what does it mean to be a pro if it's that easy?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I said. It just looks watered down now, because back in, like I said, when you saw a pro back in the day, you knew they were. You go in the golds back in the 90s, and that you can just look around and go, he's pro, he's pro. Yeah. You can walk into a gym now. There could be guys that look good. They're in shape. You're like, hey, just like, it looks athletic. Oh, he's a pro. Is he? Fuck, he's a pro. Is he? It's like, you know, it's like they said, it's just watered down. You don't. I think it's lost that mystique or that aura about it. Because even back then, even people still go crazy now. Not as much as in America, but like when Samson was overseas lately, and Andrew Jack was in England, and I think Samson was in China. Yeah, those countries still go crazy. But even in America back then, in the 90s, if you did a seminar, you were like a rock star. So many people come out, and this is another argument I got in with a couple of people on a podcast, because they said, look, we've been spoiled now, because back then it was the magazines. You had to wait for the magazine to come out. You'd run to get the magazine. In Australia, they were like 2 months behind anyway, but that's the only way you could have contact with them, or at a seminar. Now we have so much about the internet, because I remember, like when everyone's coming down on Nick, I said, well, I think what it is, because Nick was so open and he'd always put up these progress pictures, training pictures, people are fickle. Once they see you so much, they start, he looks good. Oh, but what about this now? Look at that on him. It's like they start getting nitty-picky. That's why I said, to me, if I was Nick, I'd just train covered up, show my forearms and calves, maybe once every month. Because back those days, we hardly saw anyone in the magazines. Yes, they're in shape, but off-season, right? If you went to the gym, you'd see them. But then come contest time, a lot of guys train covered up, unless they did the Mitsuru video, which came out after anyway. But you'd always tell, you'd look at the guy's forearms or calves or his face, you knew he was in shape. So I think we've been spoiled now, and people just want to see all these pictures all the time. It's like, listen, you should be happy that people show you their picture when they do. But if they don't, just be happy they post a picture of them training or doing whatever. I think we're just being spoiled so much. And then when you don't do it, oh, he's not showing it. He's an asshole. I want to see an update. It's like, come on now, just give him a break.
Well, yeah, that leads me into one of the other things I want to talk about, because back then, the magazines were the only publicity bodybuilders had. If you didn't appear in those magazines, you didn't exist. People did not know who you were, except for local people at your gym or something. Yeah. That's why most guys went out to Los Angeles, because that's where the photographers, a lot of them were based around Gold's Venice, and they would scout out talent. And the guy I used to work for, Lou Zwick, would scout out talent and send him to photographers. But you had no control over your publicity. You could look as good and make yourself available. And some of these guys would go out to Venice. They'd spend weeks and weeks out there just hoping somebody would notice them. And they'd be training every day, like, shirts, tank tops, and oiled up and everything. But it's changed now to the point where any bodybuilder can make their own publicity, Instagram page, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, all those platforms that people have now to give themselves their own publicity, to the point where not only do you not have to compete, some of the people that don't compete are able to get larger fan bases and make way more money than the vast majority of pros. And I think
that's where the argument comes up. Look, I'm not saying the guys don't train hard today, because I see some of them they do, Nick does, and a lot of these other guys do. But I think that fire in them is not as bad as it was back then, because like you said, back then to make money, you either had to place well in contests, which was either the Arnold Olympia, the other shows were 10 grand, whatever. But in doing so, it was like, if you did well, you got a contract. So to keep that contract, you had to compete at least 2 or 3 times a year. And you had to come in shape, because you come in shape and do good, they're going to re-sign you and maybe give you more. And the better you did then, you got in the magazines. And then luckily, when I used to pressure Steve, and Steve started paying to do the magazines, I'm like, yes. So That was good. So you knew to go into a contest, I got to go in the best I can to keep my contract and hopefully get in the magazines. And like you said, now I'm sure people train hard. Like Hardy still comes in great shape. He's like a throwback to that era, and a few guys are. But some other guys are like sometimes when you look at Samson, I know he trains hard. He's got that. You just want to see him get that little bit more. But there's like a lot of people now. Like you said, okay, I'm getting ready for a show and I'm training hard. But in the back of my mind, if I knew, oh yeah, if I don't do too well, I've still got my YouTube channel. I've still got all this money coming in over here. So that fire inside you is like, I remember I used to go out and buy a new car, getting ready for a show. And I'll be like, fuck, how am I going to make this repayment? Shit, I better do good in the contest. So I'd do shit like that. So I'd actually train harder and come in better shape. So if you didn't come in shape and you didn't have a contract or magazines, then like I said, you'd be working a normal job. So that's why I think a lot of guys back then came in shape, because we were fighting for contracts, magazine covers, magazine articles, and stuff like that.
Yeah, your people complain that it was, you guys had the big contracts back then, because something's before social media, something companies did pay a lot better because that was print ads and magazines were their main way of reaching the consumers. Whereas now, they had to pay back, like Muscle Tech's a great example. They paid very well. They paid anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000 a year to the top pros for contracts. And they always had 20 or 30 pros under contract.
Yeah.
But these days, it's easier for a company like that to give guys a little bit of money and a discount code, and they have maybe 1 million followers. And now they're reaching more people every day with the posts from these athletes that they have deals with than they ever did before. So, and like I said, athletes, there's you can sell your merchandise, you can sell coaching services.
Yeah.
There's there's so many more ways to make money now that didn't even exist back then. But at the same time, guys from the 90s, you could probably confirm this. They say we used to go to FIBO, for example, with a stack of photos and a box full of a giant box of VHS tapes, and we would come back from Germany with like $50,000 in cash.
Oh yeah, and you'd make all contacts with promoters there. You'd probably get some seminars out of it and stuff. I remember even like the Arnold Classic, like one year I placed 7th and I got like $1,000. But that same weekend, because even if I was competing, I'd always go to the expo because I like hanging out with the fans. I had T-shirts and DVDs and photos. I made 1,000 competing, but I made 14,000 cash, sold out of everything just at the expo. So
nice stuff. What else I want? Okay, now we might get into slight controversy. The judging now versus 30 years ago. Do you think it was more political, more biased, less fair then than now, or you think it's the same now? Do you think judging has changed at all in 30 years?
From what I've seen, and that I think it's better now. I think it's a bit more political back then. That's why I'd always talk about different things that would go on, because there were certain female judges I knew for a fact that were sleeping with some competitors, because my friend dated one of the judges and she told him, I don't care how such and such looks. He's so cute. I always put him first no matter what. And now I get into arguments with Wayne about that and stuff. And see, like I said, I never attacked anyone personally. I just attacked the organization and the politics that went on. So I think it's better now. I like how Tyler Mannion will come on and break it down and explain stuff. So it sort of helps people out a bit. But you're never going to please anyone. People are always going to think there's politics. If you say like Hardy or someone's your favorite, and like I said, Samson and Hardy this year at the Olympia, I wouldn't have been upset if Hardy had a won or Samson. But if your guy doesn't win, then it's like, oh, it's because he's from here. It's because he's not American. It's like, you're always going to come up with something to justify why. But, I think it's just because bodybuilding is such a subjective sport. Yeah. That's why I always said I hate having just one winner, because Samson and Hardy, both different body types. So it'd be different if like everyone in the Olympia was the same as Samson. You could go, oh, he's number one. But when you got a taller guy, more symmetrical, you got Hardy who's a bit blockier, still looks good, but the freaky muscle and the conditioning, totally different. So to me, it's like, well, Samson's Mr. Olympia for his body type and Hardy's Mr. Olympia for his body type. So I always hate, because it comes down to opinions. And sometimes too, I think Hardy said he wasn't going to come in as hard next year. He's going to come in a bit fuller because Samson won. So I'm thinking, don't go away from what you're known for, because that can backfire. That happened with Flex and them when Ronnie was getting bigger. Flex looked his best at 218. Flex played the size game, went to 240. He still looked great, but he didn't have that real granite chisel look that he had when he won the Arnold at 218 and stuff. So now I can see next year's Olympia. If I was going to next year's Olympia, I'd be coming in as full as they can and shredded as they can, because now people are going to come in a bit bigger and maybe that little bit softer. And sometimes I think, okay, the judges might have in their mind what they want as the Mr. Olympia, but until you walk out on stage, they could be thinking, okay, we want this bigger, fuller Samson look, but you might come out on stage fuller and that shredded. They go, holy fuck, that's Mr. Olympia today. So you could change their mind in an instant. So don't fall into the trap of playing that size game to keep up with Samson. Just play to your strengths. It's like, I think Nick might have done that at one of the shows where he tried to come in a bit leaner, lost the fullness. Yeah. Nick's known for being a freak. Just come in as fucking freaky as you can. Play to your strengths. That's what you're going to be known for. So, yeah,
this is how I tell people. Judging is more fair now for sure, because Mr. Olympia, you know, I started following bodybuilding in the Lee Haney era. Lee was winning a couple Olympia wins of his. He was not the rightful winner. He was off. They still gave it to him. You had to knock out the champion.
Especially that drug tested one. I thought Mike Christian looked great at that show when he got third. I thought Christian should have won.
Yeah. I mean, Labrada was beating him in the judging, and then somehow Labrada loses the posing round to him somehow. But same thing with Dorian. Dorian had a couple wins that were very, very questionable. Ronnie, same things. But look what's happened.
Like you said, it makes it more interesting now. I know some people complain, but it was almost like when I used to watch the F1 and Schumacher. 7 races to go, but he's already won the championship, so it takes the excitement out of it. Wow. When Ronnie or Phil Heath or someone's in the Olympia, you're pretty much like, are they going to win? Who's second or third? But I think it makes it more exciting now. We've got so many good guys, and any one of them can win. That's what makes it exciting. So rather than, oh, he's going to win again. Okay, yeah. So yeah, people should like be happy that there's Mr. Olympia changes up a bit now, because it is more exciting.
Yeah, look at this. 2017 was Phil Heath. 2018 was late Sean Roden. 2019 was Brandon Curry. 2021 was Rami. 22 was Hottie. 23 was Derek. 24 was Samson. That's 7 different winners in 8 years.
I know.
We've never seen it like that.
Before that, you only had probably 3 winners in almost 15, 16
years. Yeah. So I think judging.
Great. I think
when people complain about the judging now, I say you should have been around back in the day. This is, you know.
I know, because even back then, even some of the shows would be funny. Like even the Iron Man that I got second to Flex, and I remember Sean was there and Flex is there. And like I said, Flex always had that watery bit of look to him, but when he posed, he looked good. But Sean comes over to me, he's like, oh, you're looking great, Lee. You could have my boy today. It's going to be close. You could have my boy. And Flex heard him. Flex comes walking over. Yeah, that's true. I'll give you credit. You do look harder than me. But he goes, but because of who I am, I'm going to beat you. And he walked off. I'm like, you fucking asshole.
that was his comeback. That was his comeback show after he broke his neck, wasn't it?
Yeah, the 97. Or was it just after that? I think it was after that, because he didn't do the 97 Olympia. So it must have just been after that he had the accident.
Yeah. No, I remember that show vividly, because that was the only year the Iron Man was at this weird place downtown. They had some strange place that one year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember you were in it. Was Aaron Baker third that year?
Ronnie got third that year.
Oh, Ronnie got third. Yeah.
You haven't heard him talk about it?
Oh, that's right. He almost quit because he got beat by Lee Priest. That's right.
And then he's like, then I beat Lee at the Arnold, but then come to the Olympia, Lee beat me again, and then on the European tour.
Here's one that I wanted to ask you about, because you were fined and suspended a couple times, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Over your career. We just had Nick Walker, who, this is not a personal attack against Nick, but he drops out of the Olympia without a medical excuse or anything. It's just because he wasn't in shape, whatever. And I still have yet to hear of any kind of punishment, or they're not doing anything punitive toward him. So back in your day, you know, you were doing, I know one Olympia vividly, the one when you had the real long hair. I didn't want
to do that one, remember? I think I put on the MD board back then and get big, and then I was like, listen, because, you know, if you're going to get ready for a show, you've got to be 100% in or not. You can't even be 98%. If you want to go into a show, you've got to be 100%. So, you know, a week would go, I'm dieting and that, then I'm just like, I just don't want to do it. So a week I'd go past, eat McDonald's, like, no, I'll do it now, I'll do it. And just kept going back and forth. I said, you know what, I can't do this. I'm not going to be in my best shape. I'm flip-flopping. So I went on the boards, just want to let my fans know I'm not going to be doing the Olympia, but I'll be at the expo to meet you all, blah, blah, blah. The amount of hate I got. I can't believe this. We brought tickets to come see you. You're letting us down. Yeah, but I think, oh, fuck. So I said to Kathy, I'm going to have to do it. The fans are upset. I did it. Next day on the message boards, how could you go on stage looking like that? You let us down. I'm like, fuck, I can't win. But the other show I got fined for was in 94. because I would have been probably one of the youngest to do the Olympia. I would have been 22.
Yeah.
So I did the first 3 shows. I think I qualified at the Ironman because I did the Ironman, the Arnold, and the San Fran, or San Jose it was before the San Fran.
Yeah.
I like George. I like George Joe now. He's funny when I watch those ancient alien shows with his hair all. You look at George back in the day, he was all slick back hair and the suits. Now you see him on those alien shows. You're like, that's the same George. But yeah, so I did those, qualified. I thought, I was meant to do this Houston show, which was mid-year. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I went and spoke to Joe. I said, listen, Joe, can I sit this show out and just concentrate on the Olympia because I want to come in my best, being like one of the youngest to do it at 22. Joe's like, sure, that'd be great, blah, blah, blah. We'll do this. So I didn't do the show. I get a call from Wayne. Why didn't you do the show? But I said, Joe said I didn't have to. Wayne's like, I run these fucking shows, not Joe. You're suspended. I'm like, oh, shit. So, yeah, I got to, and then I got suspended another time, but I really wanted to do the Olympia, and my suspension was up like in November, but the Olympia was September. So I paid the $5,000 because you could either take the year off, the year suspension, or the $5,000 fine. So I was like, oh, fuck, I'll pay the fine just so I can do the Olympia.
Wow. So that was the only time that they actually had to pay a fine, right?
Yeah, I think in total I paid like $17,000 in fines through my career, and then lots of suspensions.
Yeah, and I mean that fine that was 20 years ago or more. So that would have been a lot more money in today's dollars.
Yeah,
so it's crazy that it seems like they're not gonna fine or suspend anybody ever again unless maybe.
That's the thing, like you said, it always had to be medical. If you had a medical reason, you could get out. That's why with Nick, when they were saying he's just not going to be ready, I'm thinking there must be more to it. I hope it's nothing bad or medical wise, because just to say, listen, I'm not going to shit. How many people would pull out of shows? Even when you're in shape, you think you look like shit. So, there would have been a lot of shows I wouldn't have done if I just went, oh, I'm not really ready. But then you are, because I remember there's a video that pops up online. I'm on the outdoor deck of World Gym training. I got a black tank top on, black shorts with Superman on it. I remember that day filming. Artie Zeller's there, and we're filming, could have been with mitts. And they're like, take your top off. I got the tank top on. I remember looking in the mirror. I'm just like, oh, God, you look like dog shit. And I was getting angry because I had to look at myself while I'm training. I was just like, hurry up and film this. And I think I'm not going to do the show. But now when I see it, I'm like, fuck, I look good then. But in my mind, it's almost like an anorexic person. They can be skinny, but they see themselves looking fat.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, when you're in shape, your mind, I always tell people, you can have strong muscles and strong everything. But in bodybuilding, to be a good bodybuilder, the strongest thing you're going to need is what's up here in your head, your brain, because it's a head game. I used to get ready for shows. I said, physically, the training, the dieting, the cardio, easy. The hard bit is the head games where you're going to be like, if I just do this, maybe that makes me better. Now, if I do this, if I change that. And I always tell people, if you're looking good, I never did peak weeks. I never did carb loading. If I was looking, a lot of those photo shoots I did for a MD, we always did them a week or two before the contest, because after the show, it's like, if you're going to get me in the next few days, I'm filling back out again. So that's why all I did was put the tan on, drop my water, and pump up. I never did carb loading. I never did this, change my drugs, because that's what I say to people, you make a mistake. How many times would we see guys, Dennis James, for example, 2 weeks out, you're like, this guy's going to win the Olympia. Then they walk out on stage, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
So it's like, I say, if you're dieting 16 weeks, and I tell people from week 1 to week 16, my training, dieting, the gear never changed. The only thing that changed was that last week I started to cut the water back in that. So these guys that diet from, say, 16 weeks, from week 1 to week 15, they're eating the same foods, they're doing the same gear, their cardio. And for some reason, that last week, we're going to change our drugs, cut cardio out, we'll cut training back, and they start adding more foods in. And you got to remember, your body's a fine-tuned machine, and it's used to the routine you're on. That last week when you throw it all out of whack doing hocus pocus, that's a hit and miss. You can fuck up big time. So I always say, if you're looking good, don't change it. Don't start thinking, man, I look great. It's like Paul, for instance, that Arnold that he cramped up on. The week at the gym, I mean, it was like saran wrap. You could see every fiber. I'm thinking, fuck, Paul's going to win the Arnold. Great. Because we're good friends and that. I was so happy. And then when he got on stage, the thing is, I could be a bit drier. He goes to see John Romano, gives him the Lasix, and then he cramps up on stage. I'm like, fuck it. That was the worst feeling ever too, because still, like I said, Paul being a good friend and that, he's standing on stage having to compete, but out the corner of my eye, I just see him flat on a table. They're working on him and shit. I'm thinking, fuck, is he dying over there? And you're trying to focus on the contest when you see your friend flat on his back and medical people around him. That was like one of the shittiest feelings, to be at a show and see that going on backstage at the corner of your eye.
Yeah. I know you've been a little critical about the way coaching has boomed. So back in the 90s, we didn't have a lot. There were a few. There was a handful. Chris Aceto was already working with Cutler and a couple other people.
Chad, wasn't it, back then?
Well, Chad was working with his wife, Kim. I don't know if Chad started working with Flex a couple years after that, maybe like late 90s. He was working with Flex, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Did Cormier have him too? He had a few people.
No, I know Dillette he did, because when Dillette lived with me, because I'd say that to Paul, I'd say, Paul, you freak, you this, you that, and everything else. Why do you have Chad help you? And one day I was in the kitchen. I'm like, fuck, what should I have for lunch, steak or chicken? He goes, that's why, son. I just walk over to the fridge and it says, Chad says I have to have this. I don't have to think about it. He goes, I'm fucking lazy. That's why I like him helping me. To me, it's like when you get people like Ronnie and them, it's like nothing against Harney, but he says the pro creator. Who have you created that's won the Olympia? He's always got these guys when they're, like I'd make a joke and say, my grandmother could get Phil Heath or Ronnie in shape. The genetics are so good. You give them lean food and a training program and a bit of gear, they're just gonna when you're that elite. So yeah, I just don't believe it. Like I'm always for having a good training partner, a good support team around your friends, family. You know, that second set of eyes where when you think you look shit, they can say, no, you look great. Or when you're looking great, I know I look like shit. So I've always been for that. But I just think some of these guys give too much to these gurus now where tell me what to do. What should I take? It's like, you know, and they just follow it to a T, and sometimes they fuck up. And that's the thing. To me, it's like if I didn't know you're on and you wanted to compete, you come to me, Lee, can you get me ready for a show? You know your body better than I do. So I'm going to have to say, Ron, what foods do you like? What don't you like? Okay, here's a diet. Here's some training, which I suppose you know how to train. So to me, saying, I want you to train this way or do this, it's like, you know how to train back. So it's like, I really shouldn't have to tell you how to train back if you've got a good physique. And then it's like, when it comes to the gear, I'd say, what drugs do you find work good for you? And I just give you a diet, training and gear, and you go away for a couple of weeks. How are you feeling? Oh, okay, let's take this out, add this in. To me, if you go and do a guru or a coach, they're just experimenting with you. Sometimes they hit it, sometimes they don't. And you might get close every time, but really they're just experimenting because no one knows your body better than you. But I think sometimes, like I said, when you do it by yourself, you can overthink it. You can be like, well, maybe if I just do this. So coaches can maybe pull you back, but then even sometimes coaches can go, hey, if we just do this, and then they fuck up. So, you know, it's one of those things. Like to me, when you're that elite, I don't think you need one. For the average person who wants to get into training and that, yes, they can do with coaches or trainers and dietitians to help them. But then even I see these people like a year later in the gym with the same coach. I mean, you should know how to train by now. You shouldn't need him. Like if you need a revision of your diet, sure, go see him again. But there comes a time you got to take the training wheels off and just go it alone.
Yeah, I mean, it's I never had a coach, and the thing I think I would have benefited was I was lazy when it came to researching drugs. I never knew that much about them.
Well, I never did. I've never read that, like the Steroid Underground Handbook that used to come out. Never read that once. I know young kids today that ask me now, Lee, what do you think of this drug? I'm like, what is it? Oh, you know? Like, no, I don't. I said, I've still to this day, if I do a bit of like TRT, I use SIP or I use SUS 250, 1 mil a week. But when I was competing, it was DECA, there was a bit of testosterone or SUS 250, Dianabol, Anadrol, and Winstrol. That was it. Then I said I did growth in 94 and 96. Because I was young, I didn't notice anything. I'm thinking now in my 50s, if I take growth, maybe it might help me. But I only used growth those 2 times. I was never, like I said, I was never really into the drug side that much where, oh, I got to do this and what's the latest one and what people, you know, some people are crazy like that. They get all into the scientific shit where that's why I've always just kept it simple. My training was basic and I've helped people before. It's so funny because they're like, Lee, can you write me out a diet and training and this? Okay, I was helping a guy once. He kept nagging me. Can you help him? Graham, you competed in NABA. You want to do the worlds. And I'm like, okay, I'll help him. So I did his diet and training. I said, this is what I did similar if you want to follow it. Okay. He goes, what about gear? I said, listen, I don't know anything. I said, I can show you what I've used similar. So I sent him that within 5 minutes to get an email back. Are you fucking with me? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, there's no growth. That's fucking small amounts. I said, yeah. I said, if you're going to trust me with your diet and training, trust me with this. So he followed it to a T. He went over there and he won the world championship. He's like, Lee, he goes, that's the best I've ever looked and the best I've ever felt. And like I said, I've had even clients before to people in the gym. Hey, can you do me up? So I give it to them. As soon as I hand it to them, they go like this. That's it. I mean, what do you mean that's it? They go, well, that's pretty basic. I'm like, yeah, because it is fucking basic. Lifting weights, training and dieting for a contest or just to get in shape. You know, you got to eat clean food and do cardio and the amount of calories versus what you expend and what you put in. And then if you want to bulk up, people go, Lee, what did you eat when you bulk up? How many calories? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I just ate. You want to bulk up? Just fucking eat. You can look in the mirror and know you're getting fatter or bigger. It's like, what sort of foods did you eat? I said, everything. I might eat chicken and rice, but then an hour later I have McDonald's, and then I might have steak and vegetables, and then later on have Chinese. So I'd still be eating good food, but then I'd have all the crap food in between that. And then when it came time to diet, I just cut the crap food out. And the thing is, too, when I was in those off seasons, I didn't take any gear. So I found that by not taking gear and just eating whatever I wanted, when it come time to diet, I went to clean food and the gear, my body just responded like that. That's why now I don't get it at all why these young kids bridge and cruise and that. It's like, when we were off, we were off. We didn't take nothing. We didn't go from 800 to 200 and say, I'm clean right now. It's like we came off, and that way when you did use it, your body responded so quick.
Yeah, I mean, I know guys who are 28, 29 years old. They have to be on TRT because they've already destroyed their natural production.
That's what I tell young kids too. When you're young, like yes, they want to get on tests. But I said, your test levels when you're in your late teens, early 20s are up here where they should be. A lot of foods in America now are bringing it down. Some of the studies are showing, but I'm thinking, why? And if you are going to take tests, I said, take a little bit to add to your natural level. Don't shut your natural level down. If you take all this, your body's going to go, hey, I don't need to produce it. And you shut it down. You stay on this. When you come off this, your body doesn't kick back in. So,
yeah. All right. Well, last thing I want to talk about, because you've been very generous with your time. We didn't have social media 30 years ago. It's changed the world more than anything else, I think, in the last 10, 15 years. But in terms of bodybuilding, do you think it's been a good thing, a bad thing, both? Where do you stand on the way social media has affected us?
I think it's been both. I think it's like a bit of both, because it's great that you got the access. And this is the thing too, when people get shitty at bodybuilders, I think, name one other sport where you can get access to the pros like bodybuilding. You wouldn't go to a boxing fight with Tyson back in the day and be able to get up close, shake his hand, unless you knew the people around him, or basketball players now. You go to watch a Lakers game, or if LeBron's there or someone, you're not going to get down there and he's not going to come meet and greet and all that sort of stuff unless, like I said, you know someone. So the access that pros give people is like one of the best in the world. And I just find all this, I don't know, it's like, yes, people go, I'm allowed an opinion. Yeah, you are, but I see shit online because I follow people. I just look at stuff. There's a lot of shit I don't agree with, but I don't go on there and write a fucking story abusing them. And this is like, if I don't like it, here's the thing, people. You can just keep scrolling. You don't need to comment on everything. Just scroll by. And then if you don't like, so many people, I'm sure in the comments here, people, when this goes up, I fucking hate Lee talking shit again. Okay, if you see that I'm on here with Ron Harris and you don't like me, then why fucking watch it? It's like people, I don't like this show. Then change the channel. You don't need, people used to get mad at Howard Stern. You got another 100 stations to listen to. Then why listen to him? Or people go on about Trump. I can't stand Trump. Look what he said on Twitter. Well, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you won't see what he fucking said. So why do you follow him? It's like, and but then it's like too with the whole training is basic, diet's basic. I think there's a lot of people that overcomplicate it, the bro science and that. And I think now young people, it's almost like in the old days, you'd watch a news article on TV. Coffee's good for you. A month later, coffee's bad. Chocolate's good. But now with training, these young kids are like, oh, this is the great training program. And then a week later, hold on. This is meant to be a better one. This is like this. And it's like, I think people are getting too into the nuance and the little things where when we trained, we just did the basics and that's what built the muscle. And then as you got further on, you might need, okay, I need to do this little specific exercise to maybe work the cap on my delt or the crossovers to help bring the striations out, giving it more definition when I'm dieting down. But now I see a kid who's just started, doesn't have any chest muscle doing crossovers. I'm like, mate, just start with the basics. Build your chest first before you worry about these little nuance exercises and stuff. So I think people are making it more complicated than it has to be. And then, like I said, so many people, you get a program, you stick to it for at least 6 months. I've given someone a program 2 weeks later. Oh, can I change it up now? I'm like, you haven't even been on it that long. It's like, say with dieting, you give them a diet. Oh, when's my cheat day? I'm like, you've been cheating for 10 years. How about you just stick to this? When I dieted for a contest, I wouldn't have a cheat day until, and I say day, not meal, because once I blew the one meal, I'm like, I might as well go all day. I wouldn't have one until I was actually in contest shape. I'd wait till I get down, because if I did it any early, I'd be like, well, I don't want to go back to the diet food. So I think it's good but bad. And like I said, everyone, like I said, just the opinions sometimes that just come out is just like ridiculous and more hate, whether it's bodybuilding or anything. You see it with the elections now, everything going back and forth and that. So I think it's given people a voice where, like I said, you'll see someone write something online and they'll just abuse them and hammer him. Look at that dickhead, he said this. I said, now, let's just say there was no internet and you're at a restaurant. You might be sitting in a booth at Denny's or IHOP. I'd prefer IHOP.
Yeah, yeah.
So you sit in the booth at IHOP and you could have a family or people behind you talking. You could say to your mate, oh, fuck, listen to what they're talking about, fucking dickheads. But you don't turn around and go, you fucking idiot. What the fuck are you talking about, you fucking douchebag? But online they say that, but you never say it in person. So I'm like, if you're not going to say it in person, don't put it online because, everyone's like this. I don't know, just like this hate where they must just sit there sometimes and go, look what I said to Lee Priest. I was like, oh, okay.
That's the major difference that our generation and the younger generation, we didn't have anonymity. If you wanted to talk shit to someone, you had to actually say it to them, and there might be consequences. Now, I get abused all the time. I'm sure it's much worse for you. And it's a private account. There's no picture. There's nothing. And they probably have like 20, 30 different troll accounts where they just go around.
Well, I do that on Instagram. I'll go live on Instagram and I'll invite people on that I don't know. We chat and that, but then I'll get these ones. You're a fuckwit, you're this, you're that. So I'm like, invite on. I invite them on. Declined. Then they talk shit again. Hold on, let me invite you on again. I said, mate, if you want to talk shit to me, at least come on so I can see you. I said, you know who I am. You know what I look like. So I'd have more respect if you come on and abuse me like how we're talking now. We can see you and stuff. I said, you're just making yourself look like a little bitch because you're abusing the hell out of me when I'm inviting you on to talk to me one-on-one while people watch. You keep declining me. So I'm like, I don't get it. But every time they call me out.
Keyboard warriors. That's right. Yeah, keyboard warriors. Wow. Cool. Man, Lee, you have been so generous with your time.
Thank you. It's good to talk to you again. It's like the old days when we used to do the articles in MD.
It's been almost a year now. 10 days from now will be the 1-year anniversary that Steve shut the company down.
How's Steve doing that? Is he still into the fitnessy type stuff or is he out?
I got my first text message from him in almost a year, a few days ago, and it was talking about Chris Bumstead going open.
Okay.
You want to let me know that he predicted that? I said, yeah, you did. I'll give you that. But
if you speak to him, tell him I said hello. I know we didn't finish on good terms, but I don't hold grudges with people. Tell him I said hi if you speak to him.
Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like, it's like the MD articles used to be funny because, like I said, I was always talking about anything. Steve used to like it controversial. And I used to always laugh because Steve would send me a message and go, oh my God, you're giving the editors fucking nightmares with your stories and stuff.
The two, my two favorite things to read in the magazine, because I read every issue. I wrote a lot of it, but it was your column. What do we call it? What was it called?
Confessionals, wasn't it? Confessionals.
You had a couple different names for it.
Yeah, I had one near the front and then there was one at the back. I think the confessionals were at the back, but then I had like a normal type one at the front. The one in the back was where I talked about anything that was off limits.
And remember, Greg Valentino's column was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was talking about shitting his pants and it was always ridiculous stuff. I loved it though, because bodybuilding can get kind of boring, as we know.
I used to laugh at Steve sometimes because sometimes Steve would be like, hey Lee, this happened. Just see if you can work that into the article. It's controversial. I'll do it. I'll put it in there. And then Steve would send me a message. I got in trouble for that. He'll come up to me and goes, why did you say that? I said, because you told me to fucking say it.
He wanted us to be controversial, but then if he thought we were crossing a line where there's going to be a backlash, it was always an issue. So
I know.
I still miss those days. We had a lot of fun.
I know, they were good old days. Here we are. We sound like our parents. Back in my day, the good old days.
Did you ever think you were going to be old enough to say back in my day?
No, because like I said, you play those videos. Here's a funny thing just before we go. I was at the gym a couple of months ago, and one of my old training videos come up where I'm doing leg press, and I got the thing loaded up, and there's some young kids there, and they come over. Oh, Lee, this is so cool. It motivates us. And at the same time, I'm doing leg press. I've only got like 7 plates on, and I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the video. I said, motivates you. I said, it fucking depresses me because in my mind, it seems like 7 years, and I'm like, fuck, that was 18 years ago. Now I'm watching it. There's Ira, Louis' training partner. There's Joe Gold. I'm like, 4 of my good friends on here are dead. I can't do that weight anymore. I said, this is a great fucking video. I'm really fucking happy. I see 4 of my dead mates and fucking all this weight I used to live. I said, oh, great. I'm going home.
Yeah, I mean, I was never as strong as you, but I have videos because my YouTube channel is 17 years old. And 17 years ago, I was much, much stronger. My joints were healthier.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I get bummed. I'm saying, man, look at all that weight I used to lift. I can't do that anymore. Wow. But
yeah, that's why I use a lot of I go to the New World Gym. They got a lot of Panatic because I've still got a couple of little tears in the shoulders.
yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I got to the 30-kilo dumbbell the other day. That's like what, 70 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm all proud of myself. I'm thinking, Lee, you used to warm up with this shit. So now a lot of the time I do machines and all that first, and maybe do dumbbells last because it's a head fuck. Even though I wouldn't go 180s anymore, but it'd be nice to do 100, 120. But I just start thinking, Lee, this is pathetic what you're doing here with these weights, and it messes with my mind. So I'd go do a lot of machines because that way I got really no reference point.
Well, you know, you're still able to maintain a lot of muscle mass training that way.
Yeah,
So
well, I've been lucky with that. Even like I said, when I've been off the gear, I never really lost any muscle mass. Off season, sometimes I only eat 2 meals a day. My friends are like, "Oh my God, how do you keep your size?" And I don't know. I've just been lucky. So that's where I know a lot of it must be genetics. So right now, I went to the gym today. I said I'll do some shoulders. Started doing some, like, that's a bit sore. Went off and did some calves. I'm like, okay, now I'll go do some triceps. And I went over and started doing leg curl. So at the moment, I just do whatever I feel like, a bit of this, a bit of that. And I figure if I get a little pump and I don't injure myself, that's a win. Like the other day I didn't go heavy on chest, but the next day I'm like, oh, fuck, my chest is actually sore. That's a win.
did you ever get tested genetically to see if you're myostatin deficient?
I don't know if I'm that, but I know my mum had, I'll have to ask what it is. It's some technical term where she had it, my sister had it, my grandfather had it, his brother had it, some of my cousins had it, where it's almost like a growth hormone thing where they get bone growing on top of bone and that. I was lucky I never got the bones that grew on top of bones and could give you like a kinked out arm or make you walk with a limp. My mum had that, but also my mum's testosterone level was really high. She had to take estrogen to keep her male level down. And when she went to compete, she stopped taking her female hormones, and in 8 months, that's when we won the show together. So I always had, when I did the first couple of shows that were drug tested, I had to get a letter from my doctor showing my naturally high testosterone level.
That's hilarious. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize you started competing very young, and you used to do like mixed pairs competition with your mother.
Yeah, I won my first 3 contests. I won at the age of 13, and then I won state titles. I got third in the men's open at 14, then I won state titles at 15. And then when I was 17, my mum said, if I get in shape, will you compete with me? And I'm thinking, oh, fuck, how embarrassing. Go and compete with your mum. And of course, she's like me. She loved food. She's always a little bit plumpy. I think she's never going to get in shape. I went, yeah, mum, you get in shape. I'll do it. 8 months later, she's fucking shredded and muscular. I think, oh, fuck, I got to do the contest. And we were the first mother and son in the world to compete together and win a national title. So,
wow. Yeah. I one last thing I want to ask you, because you were beating grown ass men as a teenager, as a young teenager. What did these guys, how did they treat you? How did they look at you when they see it?
They weren't happy. Let's just say that. They're like, oh, how can he beat me? He's only this and that. And
if
like
I'm 30 years old and I get my ass beat by a 15-year-old, I'm not going to be happy either.
Yeah, well, some of them, like I said, were bigger than me, but because they had this, it was almost like a young Lee Labrada. And that's a funny story. When I was 17, I just won the Australian that Labrada come over after one of the Olympias to guest pose, and he'd smoothed out a bit. And I was guest posing with him, and he actually told the promoter he wasn't happy that I was in better shape. He didn't want me to go on.
Yeah, the other Lee. Yeah, you were two famous.
Lee could be a good name. There's Lee Labrada, Lee Haney, and Lee Priest.
That's right.
Good name for bodybuilding.
Absolutely. I didn't realize. You just first time I ever thought of that. Huh. Too bad I didn't name my kid Lee.
But they went on to lustrous careers, and look at me, tattooed up like a fucking idiot.
You're still killing it out there.
I'm
still very, very relevant, believe it or not.
I just want people to know I got a new documentary coming out.
Oh,
probably December. Gary Phillips that did the Call Me documentary. Did you see his?
No, I saw clips of it. I saw the trailer. I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, well, if you see Chris's, his is really good. And Generation 9 did one. I wasn't really happy with it. And then when I saw Chris's, I spoke. And like I said, Flex Lewis is on it. Chris Cormier's on it. Melvin's on it. World Harris is on it. Paul Dillette's on it. There's so many. Jose Raymond's on it. Yeah, so there's tons of people on it. It's going to go for over 2 hours. I saw a rough version a couple of months ago, and I think it went for 2 hours 20. But I don't like watching myself. And luckily, I'm not on it that much, but all the other people are on it, and it's funny, it's entertaining. So I think I'm going to England 1st or the 9th of December, and I think we're going to release it there, like a premiere at a theatre over there, and then it's going to be coming out. So everyone keep your eyes out for it. It's very entertaining, that's for sure.
Put your Instagram, because I assume you'll announce it. You'll announce everything.
Yeah.
On the Lee Priest.
Actually, when I get off here, I'll send you a preview for it. There's
wow.
a preview Gary give me where it's got a few of them talking about it, deleting them, and they're saying, is Lee racist? And that, and Melvin's laughing, racist? And then they're saying, if Lee kept his mouth shut, would he have placed higher? And Flex and Jane, and they're like, yeah, he was a little outspoken. He would have done better if he kept his mouth shut. I said, well, thank you. You just proved that there was politics in the sport.
You actually have my favorite quote of all time about racism. Do you know what it was?
I hate everyone equally.
Yes. I think I misquoted you. I said, Lee Priest said famously one time, "I'm not racist. I hate everybody." And people always laugh.
And that's the thing. Like, to me, like I said, I live with Paul and like everyone. I help people. So I don't see color. I said that once. Remember Kurt Miller, who I used to train? Yeah. Like, he's like my brother. And one time, this was the first time I got called racist. Someone said to me, "What's Kurt?" I'm like, "What do you mean, what's Kurt?" Kurt's Kurt. He's my like brother. No, what is he? I'm like, what do you mean, what is he? Is he black? I said, well, he's black, but I don't see that. I just see Kurt, the person. If you don't see he's colored and you're racist denying his color, I'm like, what the fuck? It's like the first time I went to the Venice post office when I just got there and I had to fill out some forms. I think I was filling out the green card and that. And it said, African American, this and that. I'm like, this is bullshit. So I drew a box and put human and ticked it. And I handed it to her. She's like, I said, yeah. I said, we're all human. I said, why we got to be in categories? So I always tell people, if you get those forms, just write human and tick it. It's like, to me, it's like I judge someone a character. I don't care what race you are, religion. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. Simple as that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I remember so many random things. I don't know why this just popped into my head, but I remember you said one time that, people got mad at you because in Venice, you would give money to the homeless guys.
Yeah.
And they said, well, what are you doing that for? They're just going to use it for drugs or alcohol. And you said, well, if that makes them happy, why should I deny them a little bit of happiness?
Yeah. Who am I to judge? Yeah. I said, I don't know. And the thing was, when Powerhouse Gym opened up across from the Firehouse, I remember the Davishes were there, and I was walking to the gym one day. I lived on Rose Avenue. I used to walk, and this homeless guy's like, where are you going? I said, I'm down to the gym. He's like, can I walk with you? I said, sure. And I got talking to him. And this was a guy, he had a business. Something happened, and he lost his business, and that caused problems for his family. So he lost his family, his wife, lost everything, and now he's on the street. And I thought, that could be any of us. Any of us could lose a job. So yes, some are out there who are really fucked up and they want to be there, but a lot of them, when you get talking to them, are just being here, something bad's happened and they're down here. So I treated them like anyone, and I'd give them money and stuff. And then when the gym was open, they had this big party. I said to Davishes, hey, I met this guy, he's got some friends. When the party's over, there's any leftover food, can we give it to him? He's like, sure. So I told the guy, listen, it's going to be over about 9 o'clock at night if you want to bring your friend. Look out the window. There's a lineup of about 30 homeless people. I'm like, come in. So they're all coming in. There's food on the tables. They're putting sandwiches in their pockets and that. I remember this one old lady to this day. She's putting her finger in the dip like this, and she's like that. This other homeless guy goes, what is it? She's like, I don't know. I didn't cater this fucking affair. But the thing was, I'd give so much money to these people. And I drove the Hummer, so they knew what I drove. I pulled up at that stop sign at Rose Cafe going home.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy comes running over. Are you Lee? I said, yeah. He goes, my mates tell me you give us money. Like, here you go.
You're popular.
Like, if alcohol was the substance at the time that made them feel good or took away their pain or whatever, who am I to judge that? So I just, like I said, even homeless, whatever, I treated everyone the same. So like I said, there were a couple of crazies. I remember one woman, I came out the Firehouse and she goes, do you have any change on you? I said, oh, no, I don't, but I got this thing of food here. So I gave it to her. I start walking off, all of a sudden, bang, I get hit with it. I don't want fucking food. I need money. And I'm looking at the hamburger on the ground. I'm thinking, well, fuck, I could have eaten that if you didn't have to throw it at me.
Oh, yeah. I think you get a bad rap, Lee. You've always gotten a bad rap because people only see, Lee with the middle finger up and this and cussing and that.
Well, even that picture there, they put that in the magazine. It's like Lee flip off the IFBB. And that was because I shot with Purr all day. And then Purr poked around the end of the day. He goes, oh, fuck, I forgot to put the card in the camera. And I went, asshole. And all of a sudden it comes out, Lee's flipping off the IFBB. I'm like, what? I said, that was the Purr because he said he had no fucking thing in the camera.
Purr was great, though.
That's Steve's fault. Steve put in there, Lee flipped off.
No, I remember. I distinctly remember that issue. The very first time we ran that picture. That was the picture for your column for like at least a year. Was Lee with
that picture and the Tom Platz picture? If I had $1 for every time those two.
Oh, the Tom Platz one. That's epic. I almost used that I was almost going to use that for the thumbnail. But like, I can't have Tom in there. That's his. I don't know.
Yeah, use that one instead. Lee's back.
No, you can't put that in the thumbnail for YouTube.
You can't.
I looked it up because I wanted to use that picture of you. I said, can you have, it's considered like obscenity or something.
Well, I got in trouble the other day on, I guess I calls it Trump, whatever, the clown thing. Someone was going off and I just said, stop being a clown. They must have reported me. And I got the message from Instagram. This is a warning. That is a hate symbol. I'm like, when's the clown emoji been a hate symbol now? I'm like, bloody hell. I think it's just my name on the list. I've been reported that many times. They just come after me no matter what.
You don't get the warning? Because I always get a warning that says, reconsider this before you post.
Well, for the emoji, I didn't. On YouTube, I get that a lot. If I'm saying stuff on people's lives and that having fun. Because the way I talk, I might just say the C word or whatever.
Yeah.
Think about this before you post. I like, fucking post anyway. That's what I said. Fucking post.
My son-in-law is from Sydney. So
okay.
The C word is not the same over there as it is in the US.
But it's almost like the N word with blacks when they go, hey, what's up, man? You know, it's like we see people like, hey, you going, you can't. Hey, you going, yeah. Like, you know, it's the way you phrase it. You can be like, you're a fucking C word, or hey, it's just like your mates. Hey, you going, you can't. You're a silly cunt. You're a funny cunt.
He's a good cunt. Yeah, I mean, it's. I always say, see you next Tuesday, so that way I don't get in trouble.
Or in here, they have like the Northern Territory. That's that state up the top. They always go, see you in the NT, like Northern Territory. So it's like, see you in the NT.
I didn't know they had any human beings up there. Yeah. So, because most of your country is a vast wasteland, is it not?
Yes. So, I think we've only got, Australia's like the same landmass as America, but people think it's a little island like Hawaii. But we've got the same landmass as America, but we've only got like 27 million people in the whole country and all live around the middle's empty. That's why the thing is, though, if it rains, the middle of Australia is that beautiful. Flowers grow like green. Like if somebody did to Australia like they did to Dubai, they could clean up and like there's so much more land there and you could develop and stuff. But yeah, but it's like that's why when they wanted to make that last Fury Road, not the last one, but remember when Fury Road came out? It was meant to be filmed here, but they had rain. So all the desert land was all flowers and greens. So they had to shoot it in South Africa instead.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's how you know there's a lot of uninhabited space, because the Mad Max movies, there's these car chases that go on for like an hour and there's not any sign of civilization the whole time.
When you're going across Australia, it's like you're going across the Nullarbor or something. You want to have good petrol and water. If your car breaks down, you're pretty much toast.
No thanks. No.
You got those road train trucks that come on too. You know, you have like a semi-trailer, you might have another trailer on. You get the road trains where there's probably 6 or 7 trailers following. It's like just like they call it a road train. It's just a truck with all these carriages behind pulling it along.
Oh man, it's like a convoy or like a
one truck.
Cool. That's one truck. Wow. Anyway, the War Wagon. That's the one I know from the movie. So, all right, man. Well, again, man, thank you so much, Lee. If you ever have a podcast or anything, I'll be very happy to help you out anytime that you want. At me as a guest. But,
yeah. And like I said, if you tell Steve, tell him I said hello.
Yeah. So guys, follow Lee on Lee Priest Official 72. You can find information when that new documentary from Gary Phillips drops. I've seen Gary's work. He is excellent.
Yes.
So I expect a very
when I get off it, send you the preview.
Yeah, send me that, please. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching Ron Line Report with this man, the legendary Lee Priest, and we'll see you next time.